All right, so now we're going to check out the debleed function. It's a new feature in RX6. Dan, it's all yours for the example and walking us through debleed.
Debleed is phenomenal. I mean, we all have the problem where we have headphone bleed. Could be the source material, like a singer overdubbing to a track, and it needs to be loud to get into the vibe. And even if you have studio headphones, it bleeds into the mic often. One of the biggest problems is a click, because a click is a very quick transient, and it needs to be loud to follow the rhythm. So drummers often need it blistering loud click, and then we have our overhead mics, singers as well. So a click being and often it's a very digital beep, so it really pierces through headphones. So it's hard to contain. So click bleed, we've dealt with before. RX has been amazing with it, with the spectral repair, like we saw with the whistle. We can do that pretty much with the click. But now we have a specific debleed module. So this is great. You'll see. You'll like this. It works with, you need the source track. So you need the actual click itself. Standard Pro Tools click. And you need, the affected track, what they call the active track. So this is our vocal track, our vocal recording now. And you'll hear, I think it'll be pretty, I think it'll come across.
The sunrise sheds light on anticipation.
We can follow along to the click, so that's no good. So now we could go in and remove that like we did with the whistle, and you can see it over here at the end. Here, you see the click alone. But you can see that it's pretty broad band. It goes all the way up. So with their new debleed module, it's fantastic. So you see here we have the microphone icon for debleed. When we open debleed, like I said, it needs to have, in RX, you need to have the click source track and you need to have the active affected track. So you just simply select bleed track source, which is our click, and click learn. Now, if you see here the bleed source, here's our click, and here's our active track. So they give you a little snapshot of the spectrogram. So here's our bleed source. So it's going to learn this pattern that's inside of our affected track. So just hit learn. It takes a few seconds, does its thing. And really easy to work with. We have a reduction strength. So how much of that do you want to remove? Like any of these modules, if we go too far, we start to affect the source, the voice. And we want it to be as transparent as possible. There's a lot of cases that it's complete removal. In a lot of the cases, it's kind of like damage control. We reduce it so it's not as evident. In this case, we can go pretty far. We should be able to remove it completely. But in a lot of the instances where if we go too far with the processing to remove the noise, we start sometimes the audio gets chirpy or underwater sounding on the high frequencies. So they have something called artifact smoothing here, where we can help to offset that, the damaging effect of overprocessing. It's also often very good to repeat the processes once or twice. Lower settings, you do two passes, sometimes even 3 passes with different settings, and it equals a more musical, less affected whole. In this case, you'll see it should be, I'm just going to, if we ever move our basic settings, we want to go back to the default, we just double click or alt click on a parameter. It goes to the default isotope settings. These guys are very passionate. I've had the pleasure of speaking with them on the phone several times, and they're very passionate people. I don't think I've met another group of more passionate people for audio. And often just on their default basic settings, they've gone through a lot of work that it's a very good jumping off point. Let's just go with the default and hit process. Of course, this will depend on the length of the track and speed of your computer. Let it do its thing. You see the click completely disappear here and here. There's a few of them completely gone. To give you an idea of where we started, here's the initial state.
The sunrise sheds light on.
Right, so we can clearly hear our click is there. And once we've processed, let's listen to the debleed now with the click removed.
The sunrise sheds light on and it's
pretty good, eh? I mean, and that's pretty much an instant process. This is thanks to their machine learning, and these two files are communicating together. They're interconnected, which really brings the power of it. So if we wanted to go a little bit further, because I think I can really just faintly hear the click a bit in the beginning especially, we can increase the reduction strength. Or we can go in here and use one of their presets. But I mean, this is a very simple module. So let's just increase the reduction strength. And if we find that we have to go really hard on the reduction strength to get the removal we need, well, we have artifact smoothing here that can kind of smooth out the overprocessing negative side effects. So I'm going to go back to the initial state. And I've just increased a little bit more on the reduction strength, and let's process that. We can see that it went heavier on the reduction here. We can see more of a hole where the click was. And let's listen to that now.
The sunrise sheds light on anticipation.
So there you go, de-bleed.
Awesome. That's a really cool example of a musical application for this
Yes.
for this feature.
Yeah. And something that's been driving, I mean, recording engineers nuts for forever.
Right.
Click problem.
Yeah, for clicks. And I assume this is equally as effective for post-production, for instance.
Yeah, sure. Anytime you have, I mean, it works really well for click, especially because it's a very, rhythmic and a very high transient. But even like if you have a source track bleeding into your vocal recording, it could do a certain, it does, of course, it's varying, but it does a good job at reducing the source track bleed into headphones. But definitely for click, it's excellent. Just for that alone, I mean, it's worth it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and we'll keep going with some other new features.